Hey, good morning, everyone. I'm Jeff, and for all of you that are here this morning, welcome, and those online, glad you're joining us. Yeah, I was a young youth pastor working at a big church years and years ago, and after the service, I ended up chatting with this woman. She was new to the church. She had kids. Some were teenagers. She wanted to speak with me, the youth pastor, about the youth program. She had sat in the service. She really liked everything that she'd seen. Her kids came up from downstairs. Some of them were younger, involved in the children's ministry. And they were excited. She was really thrilled to have found this church that we were part of. So anyway, she brought her teenage kid over, and I was meeting him and chatting with her. And out of the corner of her eye, she noticed someone walk through the lobby. The lobby was full of people, but she picked out this one person. And I could tell it caught her eye. In fact, it kind of distracted her. So I started looking, trying to figure out who she was looking at. She said, "Does that guy go to this church?" And I said, "That guy?" She says, "Yeah, don't." I said, Yeah, he goes here." I said, "Do you know him?" She said, "Is his name?" I said, "Yeah, that's him." And I was excited. "Hey, you know someone here." She said, "He's a member here?" I said, "Yeah." I said, "In fact, yeah, he's been coming here a long time. Him and his family, he's taught some classes here. I think he's a member of our board now." I could tell she was shocked by that. I said, "Do you know him?" She said, "Yeah, I know him." She says, "He is." She began describing him in a very dark way. "He is one of the most." And she filled in some adjectives there. She said, "I have a family member who worked for that man." And instantly my blood just ran cold. I knew this guy a little bit. I didn't know him well, but because he had been in the church a long time and I had been in the church a long time, I had seen moments where someone was doing something he didn't like and he reacted. And I saw a bit of a dark side to him, but it was in kind of really contained situations. And other than that, I didn't really know him well. But there was enough that I'd seen where I was like, uh-oh. I wonder if she knows more than I do even. I didn't know what to say. But I will say this. I never saw that woman and her kids again. It was situations like this that I had in my early 20s that led me into a spiritual crisis. This is back in the late 90s. I had grown disillusioned with the Christian community that I had been raised in, because there just seemed to be this massive disconnect between the spirituality of the words of Jesus and the life of Jesus that I had read about and studied. I loved everything that Jesus seemed to talk about, and the way that he treated people, the way that he lived. I just thought, that guy had something to him that was just so amazing. But then I'm involved in this church. Now I'm a part of the team. I'm seeing life in behind the curtains. And I'm watching and hearing stuff that just seemed like such a big disconnect from that. Jesus and then everyday supposedly spiritual people. Many years later, here I am, 54 years old, and I'm just beginning to put my finger on some of the culprits that I think led to that disconnect, to me almost walking away from my faith. And I want to talk about this morning. we've been in this spiritual ninja training series, talking about the practices and the mindsets and the skill sets that we believe can take your spiritual journey to a whole nother level. Because let's be honest, you're exerting energy right now, getting out of bed to even be here on a Sunday morning. You're tuning into this thing for a reason. This isn't just pure entertainment. There's many people that can entertain you a lot better than we can. Now, we have great music, but I'm telling you, you have 1,000 different people you could be listening to in podcasts and TV shows. I believe you're here for a very specific reason, and I think it's because something inside you craves living a life of meaning and purpose. And you're searching for something that's deeper than just the everyday. And if you're going to do it, if you're going to put in the energy, why not do something that will lead to some kind of life change? Where the mark you leave in this short time you got on this planet leaves a mark. That's why this series is happening. We're saying, take your game up another level. Lead to some incredible impact in your life and the life of others. So the thing I want to get to today, specifically, is a spiritual skill set that I think is critical for the journey. It's a must-have. If you've got 14 different tools in your toolbox, let me tell you, this better be one of them. So I want you to listen really carefully today. Within the Christianity that I grew up in, that I know many within our community were exposed to, there was a fixation on heaven and the afterlife. That everything on earth that you do here was kind of an intro to the grand finale, to the grand chapter, and that was the afterlife, where you ended up after the grave. So the church that I was a part of had this critical mandate. Our goal was to ensure that as many people as we could impact ended up in the grand chapter. That was kind of the plan. That was the goal. Whatever we do, we got to get as many people across the line. Within Protestant Christianity, our corner of the spiritual world, it was understanding that what got you across the line was holding a particular set of beliefs. Jesus was born of a virgin, that he died, that he rose again 3 days later, and somehow in the process he paid the price for humankind's mistakes. And if you believed this, if you asked for forgiveness, you could be forgiven. You could have your record wiped. All the stupid stuff that you've done that might have gotten you in trouble, it gets wiped out. And somehow in the process, you would get registered for heaven. You would be saved. The goal was to get as many people saved as possible. If you believed these things, they would say you would have faith. You had faith. You had faith to believe. Much of modern Christianity, and especially my version, was built around this word faith. Have you ever heard someone say, hey, I'm spiritual. I have my personal beliefs? Have you ever heard? Maybe you've thought that. You said, yeah, that's what makes, I hold these particular beliefs. I have my own religious or spiritual beliefs. Yeah, people would say that's kind of like faith. Well, that's a particular kind of faith. This is known as faith as a sensus. That's in a Latin word, a sensus. The closest word we have to a sensus in English is the word belief. The use of this Latin word, a sensus, to interpret faith became really popular only in the last 300 years. Which is why in the Christian tradition, often Christians or people who are part of regular church activities or whatever were known as believers. Because you believed certain things. You kind of mentally assented to a particular proposition. You said, yes, I believe that. Jesus was the Son of God. Jesus was born of a virgin. Yes, he died and rose again. You held these beliefs inside. somehow, as you held these beliefs, you locked them down, you said a prayer, a transaction occurred. This is something. Without anyone knowing, without anyone visually on the outside even seeing, something happened. And God began to identify you as a qualified member of his family. Well-known author and Christian writer Dallas Willard, he described this version of Christianity as barcode Christianity. You say a prayer, you confess that you believe certain things, and it was like a barcode got inserted somewhere on you. One day when your time comes up and you die, you walk through God's scanner, just like you do when you're going into the Saddle Dome. Yeah, take out your keys and your cell phone, walk through the scanner, and if it lights up green, bang, it found the barcode. You're good. Heaven's gates. And you're like, yeah, I'm in. We won't talk about when it goes red, but anyways, but this barcode Christianity was how many of us were raised to understand the grand importance of being saved, to have faith. The central mandate of Christianity, as I understood it, getting people saved so that they'll go to heaven. This part of it, hey, look, it could very well be true. But part of this mandate was becoming problematic for me. Because in a very real way, it suggests that what God really only cares about are the beliefs that you hold in your head. And you got to get those things screwed on tight and right. Forget the fact that there are many different denominations all fighting for what the true right beliefs were. That was a whole nother story. Heaven forbid you didn't grow up in another part of the world where Christianity and the right beliefs were taught. Now you're really in trouble. Or if you had brain injury and you can't think the way that you're supposed to. I could go through a whole bunch of different things. I'm going, wait a second. Put all that aside. This idea of faith as a census, as the grand plan, purpose for spirituality, for Christianity, it can be so internal, so cerebral, so disconnected from everyday life that someone could be a lifetime member of a church. Someone could be on the board, teaching Bible classes, revered as a very spiritual person on Sunday. But when Monday rolled around, their disconnected life from their barcode's in. Now they can live however they want, in whatever manner they want, because who gives a shit? They got the barcode. And that's all that counts one day when that thing rolls through. In the late 1990s, I was beginning to believe that this kind of faith was poisoning rather than healing our world. And if you've ever been very careful to mention that you are attached with a Christian church, you know exactly what I'm talking about. Because one too many of them are rolling around wearing the big C, and people are going, yeah, right. I'm running from that thing. It repulsed me. Watch too many people who saw people around them in trouble, but they didn't give a shit because they weren't about taking water. They were about hoarding water for themselves. They were about hiding inside the castle walls, saying, it's not my problem what they're doing. Taking care of me. Something about that just terrified me because this was what I was raised in. But there was something about this that didn't make sense. We've been quoting a lot from a guy named James, book in the Bible, Sensei James. Oh, this guy was a straight shooter, man. It was comforting to me as I was going through this time of like complete disillusionment. I would go back into the Bible and I'd read things that just, warmed my heart. James was one of them. He said, isn't it obvious that God talk without God acts is outrageous nonsense? Do I hear you professing to believe in the one and only God, but then I observe you complacently sitting back as if you'd done something wonderful by just believing? Man, I read that. I'm like, yes, yes. There's a well-known biblical scholar. His name was Marcus Borg. He wrote a book called Heart of Christianity, and it saved my faith, in all honesty. But he said this. He said, faith as belief, faith as a census, is relatively impotent, relatively powerless. He says you can believe all the right things and still be in bondage, be miserable, and relatively unchanged. You can have everything screwed down in your head, and no one would ever know, including yourself. Believing a set of claims to be true has very little transforming power. Let me tell you something. That is poisoning our world. This kind of, I got this set of cerebral beliefs. That's all it is. It's important to understand that the word faith, though, has a wider semantic range. It isn't just faith as a census. In fact, there's another Latin word for the word faith. It's vitalitas. This is more about faithfulness, to demonstrate faithfulness to your spirituality, much the same as it means to be faithful in a committed human relationship. You know, it's easy to say, hey, I love you, babe. It's a lot harder to live in a way that communicates that love, right? To not just say, I love you, man, to let your actions speak louder. It's not all up here. It's reflected in the way that you live and talk and act. This type of faith, this type of spirituality, it doesn't just stay in one's head. It begins to spread out through one's entire body, one's heart. Vince talked about that today, allowing everything just bleeds out into the body if you allow it. You start feeling. In modern spirituality, they call this spiritual integration. When one begins to live out the discoveries, the epiphanies, the learning. It doesn't just stay up here and go, oh, I love that. I loved what that talk was about. Oh, yeah, that was so good. I agree with it. Spiritual integration takes the idea and somehow begins to absorb it. It's a movement from the head to the heart, and then from conceptual ideas into practical. It's self-actualization. Instead of just talking, instead of just reading and hearing and pontificating, integration happens when it just becomes a part of your everyday life. When you begin to understand faith as fidelitas or faithfulness, the focus turns to actually implementing what it is you're learning. You know, many people don't realize this, but the earliest followers of Jesus were not known as Christians. They were known as followers of the way. There was a way of life that Jesus talked so much about, and these people could be picked out of a crowd by the way that they were taking care of each other, the way that they were living. They were known as followers of a way of life. Jesus spent a lot of time talking about this way of life. Not so much time talking about some theological beliefs you had to screw down your head. That's what's so interesting. He talked a lot about taking care of I, but a lot about taking care of they, and the stuff that leads to we in our world. One day, his followers were a little nervous because there were all these people popping up teaching like almost like Jesus was doing. And they're worried. They're going, we're not even sure that all these cats are talking about the right stuff. There's false teachers out there. How do we know who to trust, Jesus? Interesting, the advice Jesus gave them. He didn't just say, okay, well, make sure they're talking about this and make sure they believe this and this. No, he kept it real simple. He said, you can identify them by their fruit, by the way they act. Just as you can identify a tree by its fruit, so you can identify people by their actions. Integration. I don't care what you know. I just want to watch it for a second. That'll tell the story. Sensei James, oh man, this guy, he just lines up the words and like just truth bombs. He says, be doers of the word and not hearers only. For hearers, people that just hear it, oh, I love that, oh, that's so great, and it stops there. He says, yeah, they're like those people who look at themselves in the mirror and then they walk away and forget who they are. They listen to a podcast or take in a service like this and go, oh, yes, that is right. That's good stuff. And they walk out these doors and they go, anyways, where was I? Well-known Jewish rabbi said, anyone whose good deeds exceed his wisdom, his wisdom will endure. But anyone whose wisdom exceeds their good deeds, his wisdom won't endure. Sometimes we crave so much knowledge, and sometimes the most spiritual thing we could do is say, stop. Don't take in any more. Just simply do what you know already. Let's just go with what you know right now. And let's just do something with that. Instead, it's enticing to just gorge on information. Ninja level spirituality isn't sitting at some guru's feet and getting fat on knowledge and wisdom. It's my take on it. That's called barcode spirituality. Let's just sit inside the castle walls and we have all the water we need. Let's just gorge on this stuff and look at how smart we are and look at how much we know more than all of them. True spirituality demands that we act on what we know. Do we live out our faith? It's vitalitas. We're faithful to the things we learn. James calls these people doers. Modern spirituality would call them integrators. They're actually doing something with what they know. This is why here at Friends Church, we have this value that we have been harping. Every person who's new that comes into Welcome to Friends, we talk about this specific value every time, and we'll bring it up again and again. It's this: we value action-oriented spirituality. We see our spirituality not as a set of beliefs, but as a way of life that will make our world physically, emotionally, and relationally a better place. Creating heaven on earth. That's what we believe spirituality is designed to do. What happens after the grave? No one has a clue. Hopefully good things. Hey, I love the notion of heaven. I love the idea of being reconnected with my loved ones. The animals that I no longer have. All that. Love it. Don't know how it happens. Don't know who gets there. Or if there's some kind of secret handshake you got to do to, walk through and get the barcode. I don't know that. But I do know this: I can create heaven on earth here, or I can create hell on earth. My spirituality is about creating heaven. How does one integrate the stuff we learn into their life? I was reading a blog by Adam Grant this week. I loved it. He says there's 2 simple rules for life. Rule number 1, you get better at what you practice. Rule number 2, everything is practice. He says, look around, he says, for a second. You may be surprised at what people are practicing every day. If you consider each moment a repetition, every moment you got is an opportunity to practice something. Look at how all the moments in your day are being spent. He says you'll figure out really quickly what people are trying to practice. He said many people are practicing getting mad on social media. Oh, what can I rail against now on social media? I'm mad about this. That. And they're getting good at it. Pop, 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 pop. He said others are practicing the fine art of noticing how they have been wronged. Waving their victim card saying, look at what they did to me here. Look at here. Look at here. He says still more have mastered the craft of making plans but never following through. These are all things you can practice. Let me ask you something. What do you practice the most every day? What kinds of behaviors are getting lots of reps in your life? What are the things that you're doing on a consistent basis? It doesn't matter what it is. What are you practicing? Because it's all practice. What kind of spirituality are you practicing in your everyday life? That's right there. That's the message. What spirituality, what spiritual behaviors are you practicing right now? Notice I didn't ask you what you're learning. I don't give a rip what you're learning. What are you practicing? What if you were daily to practice some form of spiritual behavior? To integrate it more into your life. Just committed to getting reps. I'm going to do this. I'm going to do this. I'm going to do this. I'm going to keep working at this. Think back over the past few weeks, the stuff that we've been talking about. If you've been joining us for this spiritual ninja training, I'm telling you, it's been gold. Last week, Vince was talking about these managers, the voices in your head, and they have different things that they're focused on. You have the perfectionist voice, the controller voice, perhaps. Not all of us have all the voices, but some of us have a particular voice that's really loud. And its challenge was, can you hear them? Can you notice that they're even there? Or are you so identified? Are you so blended with them? The challenge was to go out and practice. Can you tell when all of a sudden you're getting all dysregulated, something inside you's talking, you're getting worked up? There's a manager talking to you, and he's trying to manage, or she's trying to manage you in a certain way. That's not good enough. Can you hear the voice? Can you notice it? Because sometimes these managers, they don't do a good job at managing their life. Like Steve Carell in The Office, man. They're poor managers. They think they're great, and they mean well, but they're kind of... Yeah, they're messing them, and you have to be able to go, wait, well, no, that is good enough. I gave it my best shot, that's enough. But you start learning to separate your voice from them. It's a practice. That doesn't just happen overnight. Some of those managers have grown so familiar that you can't tell the difference between you and that voice. A couple of weeks ago, Trevor stood up here and he said, there are some here who have trouble honoring your I. And you get small when everyone starts weighing in with their opinions. And it's healthy to learn to be able to go, what do I need? And speak up. Some of you do this very easily. I get that. Some of you have no problem asserting I. But some of you, the most spiritual practice you could have this week, this season, is saying, hang on, what do I need? Before I go and I start talking to the family about how we're going to do Christmas, what do I need? Okay, all right, I'm going to speak up. I'm going to speak up. And you're going to practice. You see, it's practice. It's all about practice. We're talking about practice. No, it's a long joke. Okay, sorry, I'll leave it alone. That was good. Anyways, it's a athlete way back who had a press conference talking about practice. All right. Sorry, I digress. I found it so funny. Anyways, how do we accelerate spiritual integration? How do we do this better? Some would say just commit to a daily ritual action. Just pick one. Don't overwhelm it. Pick one. and do it. Set a reminder. Do whatever you got to do, but you say, I'm doing that, and I'm going to do it many times today. Another way to do it, journaling and contemplation, thinking. Some of you come into a service like this, and your head is swimming, then all of a sudden you have these moments where it's like, wait, whoa, this is helpful. This could be a game changer for you. Yes, it could be a game changer for you. Stop. Think about what you're going to do with this now, because that moment will end when you walk out that door and life greets you. You contemplate, what is this? Having a notebook with you. We used to do this all the time in environments like this. It's like the divine starts speaking. You have these moments you're going, wake up, Jeff, right here, right? That was for you, right there. There's times when I'll listen to a song and a lyric steps out and it's just like, oh, I needed that. And if I'm not careful, I just walk away and the moment's lost. I can't even remember it. Writing it down, journaling, straight up. This spoke to me. This might be something I need to practice. They say even in the writing, the verbalizing, the writing down, something between the right and the left brain starts integrating. Neural pathways start getting paved. And all of a sudden, the learning starts moving into implementation. It's like, I can't forget that. You get outside the door, you're on the way home, and you remember it. It's like, holy shit, I remembered that. Oh yeah. It's like waking up after a vivid dream. Going, but then 3 hours later, you can't remember the dream. You're like, this is the art of implementation. Last thing I'm going to talk about, your implementation will happen in 4 stages, likely. Hopefully you'll get to stage 4. Stage 1 is what they call unconscious incompetence. You've heard us talk about this before. You're bad and you don't even know it. It's ignorance is bliss. Hey, I'm meaning good and I think I'm doing good. But if you ask my wife, I'm scoring low, all right? And then every now and then she says, no, you don't do that well. And I go, what? She goes, yeah, I know. I'm like, huh? You kidding? I'm a rock star. She goes, no, and actually you're not very good at that, Jeff. Oh. I moved from stage 1 to stage 2 as soon as I recognize, perhaps Kathy spells it out. Perhaps you're sitting here one moment and someone says something and all of a sudden you go, oh, managers? I got that. That perfectionist, that controller voice, that pleaser. Holy cow, I do that. All of a sudden you step out of that unconscious bliss into conscious incompetence. You know what you're doing, but you can't stop it. It's painful. Stage 2 is one of the worst. You realize you're not good at something. And you're going, okay, here we go. And then you just keep doing it. You just keep doing it. Only now you see it. It's like you're watching the train wreck and you're in it. It's like, oh no. But you practice it. You write it down. You put the sticky on the mirror, on the dash of your car, on your desk. You set a reminder that says breathe and think about what managers are running your life today. And you look at your phone and you go, oh. And you practice. And all of a sudden, oh, there it is. And you quickly move into this 3rd stage. It might be delayed, but I'm telling you, all of a sudden, consciously competent. You're catching yourself. Oh, I'm not going to say that. No. Step back. And you go, oh my God, I just did it. I just did it. And you do that enough. And then you get into the 4th stage, which is this unconscious competence where all of a sudden, everything you've talked about, everything you've listened to and you believe, and you go, yes, 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 all of a sudden now becomes more and more a part of the way you live. Where the change from Sunday in the service to Monday morning in the office becomes less and less of a disconnect. And what people see in you, they go, whoa, that's a different response than the old Jeff. May you this week pick out something that your spiritual life is needing you to act on, some wisdom that you have gained, something that you're going, I need to do for your own sake and for the sake of your world, and may you practice it. And may you practice it and practice it. Because I'm telling you something, you don't want a dead religion that poisons the world. You don't want to be a part of that. May you create some heaven on earth this week as little ninjas out there working on this craft, getting to stage 4. Unconscious incompetence. Okay, no. Unconscious competence. Okay, I am wrapped up here. That's my prayer for you. Look at Kelty's coming. Yeah, okay. So, but let me say something. Christmas Eve is around the corner. Okay, so message is done. You know what you can do, right? You got your assignment. You got to practice. Not this Tuesday, but the following Tuesday, Christmas Eve. This place is going to be filled right up. We're going to have chairs wall to wall. Balcony will be open. Bar will open at 4 p.m. And don't get any crazy ideas. We're not, if there is a night that friends and family are open to checking out a spiritual environment like this, Christmas Eve is probably one of your best. Now, you know the kind of people that kind of would fit at Friends. The people that don't fit church. Can I encourage you to get out there and just invite a few friends? It's going to be a wonderful night. If you've been to one of our Christmas Eve services, you know it leaves a mark. It can leave a mark. It's going to be beautiful, beautiful music. Candlelit, trees. It's going to be amazing. It's going to be an inspiring message. But we want to pack out this place because we think more people need Friends Church. And we'd love to leave a mark on someone that might lead them to saying, I'll come back. I don't know how many people I've talked to just in the last while who said, my very first service was Christmas Eve at Friends. And I knew right then, I'm coming back. So anyways, if you have some people in your life, would you invite them? All right, I'm out. Have a good week, everyone.